Are you planning on getting your full motorcycle license and thinking about taking the Mod 1 test? In this video, I'll be explaining exactly how to get a perfect pass, and later in the video, I'll be sharing a really useful resource that I put together that will hopefully help you on the test, so be sure to keep watching. Hi everyone, it's Artista Adventures here. If you're new to the channel, I provide tips for new riders as well as sharing the motorcycle adventures that I go on, and today I'll be talking you through the Mod 1 motorcycle test. I'll explain exactly what you need to know about how the test operates so that you feel prepared, and how I managed to get a perfect pass so that you can hopefully get a perfect pass as well. So the Mod 1 test consists of the following manoeuvres. You've got wheeling the motorcycle and using the stand, riding a slalom and figure of 8, a slow ride, a U-turn, cornering and a controlled stop, cornering and an emergency stop, and cornering with hazard avoidance. These all need to be performed in a test environment, which essentially is just a large car park at the test centre while you're being observed by the examiner. Something to keep in mind, I'm not trying to put the pressure on or anything like that. From my experience, you will likely be watched by other riders as well, because they'll be there waiting for their test and they want to see what you're doing on your test to help them with their own. I don't want to scare anyone, I just want you to be prepared to potentially see that on the day. So my first tip would be just try to relax as much as you can. You don't have a strict time limit for the test, so try to just slow it down a bit. So at the start of the test, you'll be called into the test centre where the examiner will check your paperwork. So it will be things like your CBT certificate, a driving license. Once he's checked that and it's all approved, you will go back out to your motorbike, and the examiner will then ask you to follow him on your bike into the car park. Now what you want to remember here, this is where the test starts, so it's really key to remember that you need to be riding in test conditions right away. So when you come out of that parking space and follow him to the car park where you're doing the test, you need to remember to do the mirror and shoulder checks as you pull away. Okay, so let's have a look at this first manoeuvre, wheeling the motorcycle and using the stand. So there are two spaces that you can ride into with your motorbike, and the examiner will let you choose. Most people will recommend that you go into the right set of cones, as this makes the first manoeuvre easier to do. By having it in the right set, it means that when you're moving the motorcycle, the weight of the bike is leaning in towards you, so you've got better control of a motorbike. If it starts to fall, you can obviously catch it, whereas if it's falling the other way, you're going to struggle a bit to keep control of the bike. So here you can see me demonstrating the first manoeuvre. So really, it is a pretty simple task where you just wheel the motorcycle from one parking space to the other by hand. So you want to make sure you've got a good grip of a motorcycle handlebar and pull with one hand, and then rest some of the weight of the bike on your right hand that's on the seat and push. The more upright you can get the bike, the lighter it will feel. So when you do this manoeuvre, you want to imagine that you actually are on a road. So before you take it off the stand and start the manoeuvre, do some shoulder checks or have a look around as if you were making sure that there's no oncoming traffic. And then before you put the bike back on the stand at the end, again, do shoulder checks as well. So that's the first manoeuvre. Next is riding a slalom and figure of 8. This involves riding through a series of cones in a zigzag pattern. The key to this manoeuvre is to maintain a steady speed and to look ahead, rather than focusing on the cones themselves. You want to have good clutch control and use as many revs as you need to feel comfortable. Try not to go too slow, as that's when the bike starts to feel heavy and you might put your foot on the ground, which unfortunately is an automatic fail. Somebody who I was with on test day from the same driving school unfortunately did do this. They put their foot down, and this is right near the beginning of the test, and because of that they failed, which it seems quite harsh, but that's the rules. So these are the sort of things we need to overcome to get the full license. And then as you come out of this manoeuvre, you go straight into the figure of 8. This is one that can feel a little tricky. This is one where a driving school will really be able to help. There's a path you can take where you go relatively close to one of the cones and then keep a good distance on the other one. That makes the figure of 8 nice and easy. So you do actually go quite tight into one cone, but then this makes it easier to maneuver the whole thing. It's kind of hard to describe this one. It's one that you really do kind of need to practice at a driving school. Next, we go onto the slow ride. So again, remember, whenever you stop and start, remember to do those mirror and shoulder checks. Now this manoeuvre is exactly like it says in the name. It wants to test your ability to control the vehicle at low speeds. So you need to go pretty much as slow as you can, essentially walking speed. It's okay if the motorcycle wobbles, that's normal. You just have to show that you have control of the bike, and you want to make sure that you stop the bike with your front tyre in the cones. Next we go onto the U-turn. So this is the manoeuvre that I had the most trouble with when I was doing my training. So you need to remember to do mirror checks and shoulder checks, and then as you're moving to go and do the U-turn, you need to do a lifesaver, and then when you actually turn in to do the manoeuvre, you want to lock your head and look where you're going while turning and maintaining good clutch control. The bit I was struggling with was making sure I had enough power to get around the U-turn, and so what I had to do was just put more revs on than I thought I needed and just really concentrate on letting the clutch up gently. So no matter how many revs you do, as long as you've got the clutch where it needs to be, the bike isn't going to go any faster or slower. But by having the revs up, it means the power's there and it's ready as soon as you need it, and you don't have to try and find that biting point. So try and remember to use all the space that you have for the U-turn. You don't need to make it any tighter than necessary, and I'm sure you'll be fine. So once you've done the U-turn, that is pretty much all of the slow speed stuff, and then the next manoeuvres are a little more fast paced. So there's a section at the end of the car park where you'll be able to get up to speed and do the cornering needed for the next manoeuvres. The first one being the cornering and a controlled stop. So this involves riding through a series of cones that are curved at the back of the car park. So you just want to keep a steady speed and then stop in the agreed point. And for the controlled stop, you need to use the front and back brake. There's no speed requirement here. You don't have to be going a minimum speed, but it gives you a good chance to practice getting up to speed for the next manoeuvre. And then that's when you do the emergency stop. And this is obviously to help you in a potential accident or emergency situation so that you can stop the vehicle and ideally avoid getting into trouble. Main things you want to remember here is that you don't want to change down the gears. It's okay to stall the bike. You mainly want front brake with some back brake. And then a key point here where a lot of people get tripped up is that you need to make sure that after you've stopped the bike, you do a shoulder check to make sure no cars or anything is coming up behind you. And it's so easy to forget that shoulder check because once you stop the bike, you feel like the manoeuvre's over. And then the last manoeuvre is kind of tricky as well. This is the avoidance manoeuvre, and you have to be going a minimum speed. So the minimum speed you need to be going is 31 miles per hour on a motorcycle. If you're doing the test on a moped, then it's only 19 miles per hour. This is another really good one to practice at the driving school. Lots of people fail this because they don't get up to speed. If you don't get up to speed but you're close, then you get a second attempt, and if you don't get up to it again, then you fail. But when you've practiced enough, you get a feel for if you're going fast enough. So the trick here is make sure you're up to speed, and when you do the manoeuvre, you want to kind of push the handlebars to the direction you want to go. Again, this is something that in the driving school you can practice and you'll get a better idea of how to do it. Once you've done that manoeuvre, then the examiner will open up the gates and he'll let you out. I'd still remember that it's test conditions. You go, ride up, park your bike, and then the instructor will come and let you know if you passed. And once it's passed, it's a great feeling, and you can go on, do your mod 2 and get your full license. And what I've put together are the exact notes that I use to do my tests and get the perfect pass, and I'm going to link them in the description, so feel free to have those. I'm giving them out for free. I want to help other riders get their full licenses. If you do want to help, then please do consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps out, and giving the video a like. I'll be going on loads more motorcycle adventures and documenting the journey, and it'll be great for you to come along for the ride. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you in some future videos. Good luck with your test.